Welcome back, folks, to my WrestleRant video series where I give my in-depth analysis of all the pay-per-views that I watched in the WWE Network. Today I'll be talking about the 2003 installment of Survivor Series and kicking off the show, Team Angle versus Team Lesnar in a traditional 5-on-5 elimination tag team matchup. Now, Angle and Lesnar had spent the better part of 2003 feuding over the WWE Championship, and while the title will not be on the line in this matchup, it was all about bragging rights between Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. Now, representing Team Angle was, of course, Kurt Angle himself, Chris Benoit, John Cena, Hardcore Holly, and Bradshaw. Representing Team Lesnar was Brock Lesnar, the WWE Champion himself, Big Show, Matt Morgan, Nathan Jones, and A-Train. So both teams, while like Team Lesnar's team was a bit random, but he was looking to get the most stacked team in terms of size, and he definitely did get that in Big Show, Morgan, Jones, and A-Train. So I can see the consistency there, having one of the heaviest teams, having one of the biggest teams in Survivor Series history, whereas Team Angle, everyone on that team had a problem with Brock Lesnar. Like I said before, Angle and Lesnar had spent the better part of 2003 feuding over the WWE title. John Cena, Chris Benoit, Hardcore Holly, and Bradshaw all had their respective issues with Brock Lesnar. So it only made sense for all those guys to come up into one team and go on to take on Brock Lesnar in this 5-on-5 elimination matchup. What I thought was really weird, though, was that Kurt Angle was not eliminated early, but he was eliminated like midway through the matchup. I thought he was going to be one of the last ones. The actual last superstars remaining in this matchup, I don't even think Brock Lesnar was one of the last people remaining. I think it might have been Big Show. It was Benoit and Cena against Big Show, and they ended up eliminating him to pick up the victory. So a big rub for John Cena, who was still coming up in the business at this point in time. Chris Benoit, have him stick around as have him win here, be one of the sole survivors, was a bit weird, but still, though, it was a nice rub for Benoit, as well as he would go on to win the World Heavyweight Championship only a few months later at WrestleMania. But even still, though, a very good opening matchup. Now, there was a couple of stories told. It was more so about the stories being told in the in-ring action. But I really liked how there was a lot of sense in this matchup, and that there wasn't the teammates weren't randomly selected. For Team Lesnar, all of them it was a stacked team in terms of size in order to get the upper advantage over Team Angle, and everyone on Team Angle hated Brock Lesnar. They all had their problems with the WWE Champion at that time. So it made sense. It gave a big rub to John Cena in planting the seeds for his match against the United States Champion Big Show at WrestleMania 20 only a few months later. So a very good opening matchup between Team Angle and Team Lesnar. Should have been given more time. I mean, it was the opening matchup, a lot of rapid-fire eliminations early on, but still a good matchup nevertheless. Up next for the WWE Women's Championship, Molly Holly defending against Lita. Lita was just coming back from her neck surgery, I think it was, neck injury. So there was a story being told here as well. But of course, since she had just come back, it was way too early for her to win back the gold. So it was okay for her to lose here. I had no problem with that. Continued the feud going forward, all that kind of stuff. But the match itself was good for what it was. Lita has always been a great in-ring worker. Molly Holly has always been great as well, very underrated in my opinion. So they put together a pretty nice matchup. I mean, a lot of people in attendance did not care all that much, and Lita kind of redid her image a little bit coming back from injury. So it was a good matchup, good story told, and like I said before, had no problem with Molly Holly going over, since that would continue the feud, would not put the title back on Lita too early. So up next, we had an ambulance matchup between Kane and Shane McMahon, the long-running rivalry between these two in the latter half of 2003 after Kane attacked Linda McMahon. I believe these two had a last-man-standing match at the Unforgiven pay-per-view a few months prior to this. So they collide on the show in an ambulance matchup. I believe the first one of its kind. I know the next one that we would see after this would be between Cena and Kane as well in 2012 at Elimination Chamber. And we would also get one the following year between Cena and Ryback at Payback, I think it was. But even still, I thought this was a great matchup. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be. Like, I didn't think the Cena and Kane match from 2012 was all that great in terms of an ambulance matchup. And that was the first ambulance match I had ever seen, obviously, because I never went back and saw this one. But this was very entertaining. I mean, like I've said a couple of times before in these Survivor Series reviews, that Shane McMahon, I don't want to say he's so underrated, because a lot of people recognize how great he was in the ring, but he was just so entertaining as an athlete. And, one of these matches, this match was definitely an example of that, and he worked very well with Kane. Kane was as vicious as ever. So it made for a very good dynamic between these two competitors. Kane picking up the victory as he should have, like he did in the last man standing match. He did again in this contest. to kind of further build momentum going into his feud with The Undertaker in 2004, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But even still, though, a lot more entertaining of a match than I thought it would be. I mean, I've heard good things about this matchup before, but still, though, I thought it was a very good matchup between Kane and Shane McMahon in the ambulance match environment. Up next, we had the WWE Tag Team titles on the line with the Bashams retaining against the Los Guerreros. Now, Los Guerreros, I think, had been an on and off tag team because I know they won the gold at the previous year's Survivor Series, which I reviewed here on the channel. Cheap plug, check it out. But the commentators are kind of teasing tension between the Los Guerreros, and I think Eddie had just been WWE or United States champion. He had just lost that belt. And Chavo, they kind of reunited to take on the Bashams here, and they lost the tag titles as well. But the Bashams, I know someone mentioned this to me not too long ago, and I just didn't really think about it until now, but I can't believe these were the same guys that were with JBL maybe a year or two after this, a part of the cabinet. But on this show, they had this stripper gimmick. I don't know who it was. Shakina or Shaquanya or whatever the fuck her name was. She was in the corner of the Bashams, like whipping them with a whip, and they had, it was like a sex dungeon gimmick or something like that. It was really, really weird. How that fucking flew in 03. I mean, I know it's 03, it's not PG, but it's just a dumb gimmick. I mean, these guys were good athletes. I mean, they were twins. They were like the Usos. It's not as exciting, in my opinion, but they were a solid tag team, and to kind of water them down with this really dumb and stupid gimmick didn't make much sense to me. Los Guerreros taking out their manager at one point in the matchup, so that was entertaining. The woman that looked like a man, but even still, I thought it was entertaining for what it was. And Bashams retained still the WWE Tag Team Champions. So up next, we have our next 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series Elimination Tag Team matchup with Team Bischoff, Chris Jericho, Christian, Randy Orton, Scott Steiner, and Mark Henry taking on Team Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and the Dudley Boys. So the thing with this matchup, and I think we also had something else in the show that I failed to mention before, it was the segment with, I can't remember his name right now, Randy Orton and the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. I can't remember what his name is right now. I should have done my research, but I can't. Shit, because I know he guest hosted Raw a couple of years ago, like 09, I think it was. So please jog my memory by tweeting or leave a comment down below. But I can't, it's going to bother me until I'm done with this video. Let me look it up right now. What the fuck was that guy's name? Because I know Randy Orton arcade him out of nowhere. Oh, man, it's going to bother me. I'm going to have to say it in this video because it's going to bother me if I don't figure it out otherwise. Holy shit, what was it? No, fuck, I don't know what his name is. Man, what was it? I don't know. Orton RKO him out of nowhere. And that was pretty much it. That was like the whole thing, the whole segment, and everything else. Man, I can't fucking find it. What was it? Mark Cuban, that's what it was. I'm sorry it took so long for me to figure that out, but yeah, they had an in-ring segment as well. I should have done that afterwards, or beforehand, but it would have bothered me if I didn't figure that out while I'm filming this video. But still, though, good matchup or good segment there. I failed to mention that before, but for what it was. So, Team Bischoff and Team Austin. The stipulation in this contest was that if Team Austin won, Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was co-general manager with Bischoff at the time, would be able to regain his ability to attack other superstars. He had that right stripped from him at the hands of Linda McMahon a couple of months before this, and Bischoff said, hey, if you win this matchup, I'll give you all your rights back to attack anyone that you want, but if you lose, you'll be fired. So a very intriguing stipulation, much like we have this year with the Authority and Team Cena and all that other kind of stuff. But it was good to see one of these matches actually mean something for once. I mean, all the non-stipulation matches like this are fun and all, but I mean, it means more. It's more intriguing when there's something on the line. So, good stuff here. I mean, I thought this was a very entertaining matchup. Got about 30 minutes, twice the time of the first opening matchup between Team Lesnar and Team Angle. But I think, Shawn Michaels was the star of this match, as well as Randy Orton for his respective team. But everyone worked hard here. Jericho and Christian, who I think were a tag team at the time, worked very well together on the same team. Scott Steiner, the same man, had returned 1 year prior at Survivor Series, having a good showing here as well. But like I said before, it was all about Randy Orton, who was a part of Evolution at the time. They were building him up to become the next guy in WWE. He would go on a month later, I think, to win the Intercontinental Championship at Armageddon. So it made sense for him to eliminate RVD here to build that feud a little more. But Randy Orton kicking it off here, becoming the sole survivor for his team. Team Austin would emerge victorious. Austin would have one final farewell at the end of this matchup, or afterwards anyway. And also Jonathan Coachman would come down and Austin would attack him as well. So a final fun farewell for Stone Cold Steve Austin, even though that was not the last that we would see of Stone Cold. He would be on Raw the next night, and he came back a little later on at the end of the year, I think, on the road to WrestleMania 20. So, I mean, they treated it like that we would never see him again, and maybe people that were watching at the time did think that. But going back on it now, I thought it was just really unnecessary. They killed a lot of time with the post-match celebration. I'm not complaining because it was entertaining for the most part, but they kind of treated it like that we would never see Stone Cold again. I mean, one can make the argument they did the same thing for John Cena back in like 2010 when he was fired after the whole Nexus angle and he was back a month later, and, you know, they did that whole farewell on Raw and all that other kind of stuff. But still, though, I thought it was a very, very good match. It made Orton look like a star, and a great final few minutes with Orton and Michaels as the final exchange between those two guys. So great matchup there. Up next, a casket match between Vince McMahon and The Undertaker. And of course, The Undertaker, as one would only expect, spent the entire matchup kicking the ass of Mr. McMahon, only for Mr. McMahon to come back and win via interference from Kane. And that would kick off the second coming of the feud between Undertaker and Kane. I know they feuded a few times during the Attitude Era, but I count that all as one feud for the most part. So they reignite that feud going into WrestleMania with Kane being unmasked this time. They would also feud another time, I believe, in 2010. So 6 or 7 years after this, they would feud as well. But Mr. McMahon, yes, does indeed own not a pinfall victory, but a victory over The Undertaker on pay-per-view. The same pay-per-view where The Undertaker made his debut at the 1990 installment 13 years prior, which the commentators were not shy to mention, which was great. So I'm glad they acknowledged history there. But the matchup wasn't like a 5-star classic, but seeing Mr. McMahon get the holy shit beat out of him in this contest, I thought that was very entertaining while it lasted. The swerve with Kane was a nice surprise. I don't know if anyone saw that coming at the time. I can't say because I'm going back and watching this. I already knew the outcome, but it was still fun to watch anyway, to watch it develop. But still, though, I thought it was good for what it was. Taker handing the ass to Mr. McMahon right in front of him in this contest, The Undertaker getting buried alive. So, pretty much a total ass-kicking. It was not a great matchup, but it was fun for what it was. And then we get to the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship. Goldberg defending against Triple H. These two had a long-running rivalry over the course of the latter half of 2003. And they never really had the best chemistry. This matchup was not great. They did some brawling beforehand, so that kind of took away from it. The match only came out to 12 minutes officially. Like I said before, they did some brawling beforehand. It didn't get good until like the final few minutes with all the reversals and counters and stuff like that. I mean, it was not the most sensational matchup that I've seen between either one of these guys. I mean, Goldberg has never really had a great match, except for the ones with like Hogan when he won the title and stuff like that. But for the most part, he's never been the best in-ring worker either. But still, I thought they worked a pretty good matchup for what it was. Like I said, the finishing sequence, that was good. The down the stretch, they kind of worked well together, but early on it was kind of boring. And Goldberg, of course, laying out all of the evolution at one point. He overcame the odds in taking out Triple H, Ric Flair, Batista, and Randy Orton all in one sitting with no help from anybody. So that kind of put over the dominance and power of Goldberg, who came out victorious still as the World Heavyweight Champion. So a solid matchup to end the show on. I didn't think the show was as strong as 2002. I thought 2002, nothing is going to beat that show, but consistency-wise, everything on that show I thought was amazing. This show had its moments. I mean, there was definitely more good than bad. Opening matchup was very good. Molly, Holly, and Lita, fine for what it was. Kane and Shane, I thought was great. Definitely go back and watch that. The Basham brothers versus Los Guerreros, very forgettable matchup. Team Bischoff and Team Austin, I thought was very awesome as well. So definitely go back and check that out on the network. Vince and The Undertaker, if you want to see an ass kicking, maybe go back and watch that, but it's not must see. And the main event was good too. I mean, it didn't really drag down the pay-per-view. It wasn't great, but I'll call it good. But I thought this was a very good pay-per-view on the whole. Really enjoyed it. I'm continuing the trend of very good Survivor Series pay-per-views. I enjoy the 01, 02, and 03 editions, and this kind of contributed to that as well. So with that being said, I'll be back in a couple more days, folks, with my review of the 2005 edition of Survivor Series. I'm going 05, 08, 2011, 2012 to finish off the month of November before moving to my reviews of TLC and a few other pay-per-views before we go into 2015. So that being said, folks, make sure to find me on Facebook at Graham Juice Matthews, Twitter at WrestleRant. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Graham Juice Matthews, and I'll catch you guys next time in my next video.